Welcome to another episode of Dwayne's World. I am here with a very special guest, with a very talented man. He's become something like my guru and my mentor. We have Colin Brittain in here. How
Thanks
you
for
doing?
having me.
How you feeling, man?
I'm good, man.
You good?
Yeah.
You're looking handsome.
Thanks, bro.
I feel like I'm always like slightly hitting on you, but always
That's
trying
okay.
to show you love.
No, I love that. I love the energy. I love the attention.
Amazing.
Besides, my dad's in town this
Oh,
week.
I did not know that.
My dad's in town for the first time in a while, and so I felt like I needed to really just work out. You know,
Yes.
you never want to
Feel
be
that.
like, son, you're looking sloppy.
Yeah. No, I feel like our old mans always feel like they can. I feel like they know that we can beat them up now, but they have that old man strength.
Definitely.
Talk about that a lot.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. It's necessary.
It's
I
very
love it.
necessary. How long are you gonna? He's gonna be here.
I think he's here till tomorrow, but yeah, he was
Amazing.
here. I took the weekend off. You know, I used to like when you come out, I would just be, I was so focused, and I'd be like, all right, I gotta work, and
Yeah.
still work, and I'd take dinner off and shit. So like
Sure.
this, finally, I was just like, all right, I'm weekends off. My brother, I was talking to him, and he's like, hey, don't work too hard this weekend. When you're in. And I was like, you're right, thank you for that. So I just
That's
took the
fair.
weekend off, and it's been great because he's got as he gets older, he's got so much wisdom,
Yes.
and like
Yes.
the old folks have got the wisdom.
They do.
My dad's not even that old, but he's older than me.
Yeah, he's
so.
lived. Like, no, I love that. I mean, I think I'm gonna have my pops out here in December.
Yeah,
He's never flown, clearly never been to LA.
really.
And yeah, I mean, do you have like a really good relationship with your pops?
I do. Yeah,
Hell
of
yes.
course. Yeah,
I love that.
he's been great. He's a persistent worker for sure. He's taught me a lot. So,
Yeah.
and I think it's like hard when you, especially if you're creative. I think it's hard if you have parents that have been big in your life. Usually, especially your dad, like you kind of like become a little bit like them in certain ways, even if you're very different.
So
There's just like little things that you just, and as you get older and more
So
successful
true.
or whatever,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
start seeing them kind of pop out, like personality traits, those kind of
Yes.
things.
Dude, I feel like every time we talk, we're just like connecting on so many levels.
Yeah.
Me and the lady were having that exact conversation yesterday. She played at Conflongnaut.
Yeah.
Went amazing. Her
Yeah.
pops was there, of course. And
course.
then he just does certain things that first off, they look exactly alike. But
Right.
I was like, boo, you do what he does, like where like you get scared in that fight or flight thing. So you say something so abrupt to make someone like you want to at least like scare them off, or maybe they'll lean into it. And she's like, no, I don't do that. And then 2 minutes later, she's like, damn, I'm just like my dad. I'm like, no, it's not a bad thing. It's good. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm learning too. I'm just like my father as well. In like certain aspects, I have a lot of my mom and him, but it's like, it's cool. It's not, I feel like I used to be ashamed of it, or like we would be ashamed of it growing up. Like, we have to be so different. Or we have to be
it's
like,
yeah.
weird.
It's not just. I guess it's not just like you're never gonna be just like them. It's like it's so complicated.
It is.
We humans, I feel like, look at things so binomially. You look at things of like, oh well, it's either I'm like my dad or I'm not. It's like, well, actually, just maybe your mannerisms and your like, or the way you deal with stress in this situation is like it. And it's not good or bad. It just is.
I agree. Yeah, it just is, bro.
It
God
just
damn
is,
it.
and so it's like nothing's good or bad, really. It's
Yeah.
just kind of, that's what I think.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I agree with you all the way on that.
My
Agree with you all
daughter
the way on
is
that.
4,
Yeah.
and she's
She's a cutie pie.
so cute, but she's also just like, even at 4, I'm just like, I can just see so many little things
Mhm.
where she's probably more like me at 4 than, I mean, it's hard to say if she's 4, but she's
Yeah.
probably more like me than she is my partner at,
Understand.
you know what I mean?
Got you. Yeah. No, I love
So
that.
it's cool.
I think it's so fire, bro. Like, I don't know, the whole family thing to me is just, I feel like the older I get and like the more conversations I have with my mom and dad and like all my sisters, like, I don't know, it's just cool, man. I feel like when I first came to LA, I tried to run away from the idea of all of that. You know what I mean? Just trying to like start anew and all that shit, and then you just end up coming right back to it, which is like just coming back to the center.
Yeah.
And just
I
feels
think that's
really,
necessary
really good.
though for really any young person, especially anybody who's trying to do something great.
Yeah. Yes.
You
Yeah.
want to do that, and it doesn't. It's like, I mean, it's tale old as time or whatever of like rebelling against your parents.
Of course.
Of
course.
fuck that, I'm not
Yeah.
doing that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, actually, like, well, maybe they had some things right.
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
and also my dad too, like something we don't consider is like, just because they're your parents, like my dad, as I think he's like 65 now,
Okay.
And so as a 65-year-old, he's different than he was 10 years ago.
Understand.
You know,
Okay.
he's learned a lot, and he's maybe
Most
come into it. He's more accepting of certain things now than he even used to be. And so they're moving through life too at the same pace.
So
it's
true.
just like, so there's always room for growth on their end of things. And so nothing is like stagnant.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, I understand. Are your parents still together?
They are. No, they separated when I was like 9 or 10.
Okay, pretty young. Yeah,
Yeah, pretty young.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, understand. Yeah, big shame. That I still sometimes they didn't talk for so long after the split. But now when I see them, like, I still see my dad just trying to, like, flirt with her. And they're still, like, they're, like, 48, 47. And it's so cute to me. I'm like, bro, like, she has a whole man and
it is
whatever.
interesting.
But it's interesting.
It is. No, I say
it is like, hey.
Like, I actually, you know, it's funny. It's actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I would never, like, they would both, like, deny this.
I'm sorry about it. Yeah,
no,
sorry about that, Mom.
No, they would both. Both my parents would deny this. But before my son was born, there was, like, a baby, what do you call it, like a baby shower or whatever, for my son. And my parents were both there, and like my stepmom was there, and my mom's husband was there, and it was funny watching my mom and dad, who normally don't spend time together very much, but it was normally like, because they were all kind of helping out together, and it was funny just seeing my mom and dad, like, the banter they would have, like, joking with each other and stuff, and I was like, I see why you guys were at one point, like, really good for each other.
Right, like a big vibe.
You know, for sure. Like, they're so different, but they're, you know,
Love
and
that.
they would never work long term, obviously, but, like, I can just be like, okay, I see that now.
Yeah, it was probably like fire, you know.
Definitely.
What I mean? Yeah. Well, I love that. I want to get into, because I admire what you do as far as, like, your workout flows. I feel like we've been talking about it, but, like, I feel like routine is very important, especially I'm more for just, like, humans in general, but do you have a certain routine that you go about, something that gets you moving, something that gets you ready for the day that you enjoy doing?
I do. I think we've talked about this.
It because I want people to know.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of like, so I do the cold tub thing, the cold plunge thing, but I want to preface that with saying, like, it's become kind of this, like, oh, he's another one of those, like, you know, sleep 3 hours, make $1 million a day kind of bros, like entrepreneur bros. Yeah. Gino the Ghost, do you watch his podcast?
No, I don't.
Gino the Ghost, by the way, for everybody who's listening to this, Gino the Ghost podcast, shout out to Gino. Phenomenally hilarious podcast.
Amazing.
Worth it in every way. He's got so much insight. But he's always trolling on these entrepreneur bros. And I thought it was so funny because a lot of those guys are like, you know, the cold tub, like, blah, blah, you know, Joe Rogan type stuff. And which I like Joe Rogan, by the way. But I was just going to say, like, you know, it's not like that, first of all. So don't judge that. But my routine is a cold plunge, which I have behind my house. And then I try to stay, like, you know, when I first came out to LA, I felt like I kind of tried to keep running, you know, keep some kind of exercise going. But I think, like, some degree of intense exercise for me really helps my mental state. So, you know, it's, I don't know, I try to run maybe like a couple miles. You know, we talked about it. I've been getting back into, like, the heavy push-ups, you know, just body weight stuff.
Come on.
And cold tubs and then cold showers.
Cold showers, yeah.
So I have, like, at the very least, if I'm super busy, I've got a 30-minute routine where I'll just do, like, a bunch of push-ups and a cold plunge for 3 or 4 minutes, and then a cold shower.
Beautiful.
You know, and the breathing thing too, like the meditative breathing.
Yes.
That's been really, really helpful. That's like, for me, it just kind of clears my whole head.
Gotcha.
You know, and then obviously, like, you know, I have 2 young children, so, like, I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and so just seeing them in the morning and just being, even if it's for 20 minutes, just playing with them and kind of being present with them for a moment, because I don't really get that the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know, that has been so important to me.
Got you.
You know?
I love I mean, I see you. I feel like when we're working and stuff like that, but I love the relationship that you have with your kids. I feel like they, like, really just love you and admire you and just want to be by your side.
They do.
And, like,
I think
it's
all
so
kids
cool.
do.
Yeah.
All kids really, all they want, I think, especially when they're little, like, all they want is just to be, you know, it's like the only time in their life maybe that they're just like, you'll never have a relationship like that.
Yeah.
You know, when you do with your small kids. And, you know, and I travel a lot, and for a long time I was in Nashville. I moved to Nashville from LA for maybe a year and a half. And I was back here all the time, and you know, and I missed so much of my son's first year, and that's why part of why we came back here. And my studio is sort of like a part of it's on my property.
Yeah.
And so when I'm working in bigger studios, I don't see him, but I get to see him like. There's a separation between work
For
and like
sure.
when we're working.
Yeah.
They don't just like hang out in the studio all the time, but they get to see me. I can come in the house and see him and stuff, and kind of recharge in that way.
I think it's fire.
Super cool.
I think it's so fire. I wanted to ask also about, just because I feel like you know how obsessed I am with love.
Yeah.
I feel like these days I'm like a love addict, and I want to ask, how long have you and your partner how long have you guys been married first?
We've been married since 2015, so 8 years.
Damn.
Yeah, long time.
8 years.
We're Southern.
I mean,
So,
I'm
we
right there
started
with
early.
you. I mean, because she's also from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then I wanted to ask, do you remember when you guys first, I know you guys went to high school together.
We didn't go to high school.
You go to
together.
high school.
No,
Okay.
mm-mm.
What do you guys remember where you fell in love or where you first met?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would love
yeah.
to know.
Okay, so I had my band was
Mhm.
I was in a band called Ono Fiasco,
Okay.
and we were signed with Alan Kovac's company, and we had just started really like touring pretty hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back from one of these tours, and I had this crazy friend of mine who's, rest in peace, Anthony. He was really like illustrious, sort of like very. He's like a hairdresser, and all the girls loved him and stuff.
Yes.
Anyway, I came home from a stint, and I came home one day, and there were these two girls in my apartment that I share with this guy, and one of them is my partner, and he was hitting on the other girl, and he was just like, bro, be my wingman, and
Of course.
I was kind of like, I'm tired, I've been on a plane, whatever, and we started chatting, and then she was still in college, and then we kind of hung out for a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
And we wound up kind of hanging out for that weekend. And she went back to college and to finish up. She had like a month left.
Okay.
And then I went back out on another tour, and I kept texting her while I was on the tour.
That.
And then when we came back, we spent like 3 weeks together.
Okay.
And then she moved to New Zealand.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
She moved right to New Zealand. She already had this trip. She was gonna I'm moving to New Zealand,
Wow.
like with no intention of coming back.
Wow.
And and we had tours booked and stuff. And so I remember spending like 3 weeks with her. And I remember there's this one night, there was this like on the Tennessee River, there's this like beach sort of, and I like took her out there, and I said, I think I love you.
Oh.
And you know what I mean?
I do.
I was like, I think I love you, and then she left for New Zealand, and I continued on my thing, and we were on kind of before FaceTime really was a big thing, but Skype was like
of course.
the thing,
Most
and
definitely.
so we had like Skype, and we would Skype every day,
Beautiful.
every single day for like an hour every
Yeah.
day. And then I went and visited her in New Zealand for maybe a month or something, or 3 weeks or something. And then, and when that happened, I think we were kind of like, okay, well, I think she moved back to the States maybe like 3 or 4 months later.
Okay.
After that, because obviously we were like,
you guys were pretty,
yeah, we were like, this
serious.
is gonna work, I think, And then we've been kind of together more or less ever since. So
I love that.
Yeah.
She's so sweet too, man.
she's great.
She's so nice and like always chilling. Yeah,
She's
really
the
beautiful.
opposite of me, like in every possible way.
I
She's
feel that.
so down to earth and
Yes.
like just like
Yeah,
organized.
I understand.
And she's an artist too. She paints, and the interesting thing about her name's Lee, but my interesting thing about my wife is that the way she looks at things is so different. Like when she makes these beautiful paintings, and she does them by like looking at a picture and sort of like copying that image in her own sort of
I
way,
understand.
right?
Understand.
Whereas I'm like if I paint, because sometimes I'll paint with her just for
Okay.
fun, and I can't look at something and copy it,
Yeah,
or translate it like that. I just start going,
understand.
just like we write songs. I just
I
start
was gonna
going
say, yeah.
out of nothing and just
Mhm.
make this. I mean, my paintings look like,
I didn't know that you.
I look like my paintings look like Van Gogh if Van Gogh had zero artistic talent.
Understand,
It's
yeah.
just like a big.
It's like abstract vibe.
Yeah,
understand. Understand. I love
So,
that. I didn't know you painted with it though. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, very rarely, but
Yeah.
sometimes she does these things like called paint nights where
Mhm.
where she'll have some of her friends come over, and then they
Beautiful.
all just kind of drink wine and paint, stuff. And so
I'm trying to be. That sounds like a vibe.
Yeah, you should come
Sounds
over.
like a big vibe. Honestly, I love that, bro.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The love thing is just so cool. I feel like I fell in love with my partner when she was going on stage, and we hadn't known each other for that long at all. And I remember being in Miami, and she walked on stage, and I just remember like hitting my head, just being like, "You're stupid!" Like you're like not making a mistake, but sometimes I've never been in a situation to where like you remember the moment. Like I feel like you start to get feelings and like, oh, this episode, I just remember her walking on stage and my heart just being like I love you. Like I was just like, oh no. It's great, but
Isn't
I was
it
just
funny
like,
though
it's
that
just
like
weird.
the best feeling, because I know there's like maybe some relationships out there because it's different sizes and different strokes for all people.
Most definitely,
but
most definitely.
I feel like the ones that are the most memorable, like the relationships that are just, you got to have that, like, I think for me at least, you have to have that fire that's just like, I just want to just,
oh yeah,
grab you, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And instead, but then, you know, you hear some relationships that are like, yeah, well, we were friends for a year, and then we were like, okay, well, I guess that I kind of fall in love that way. And I've just never, like, I've had relationships like that before in the past. And they never really worked out because I was never really just like
in it, like all the way.
You know what I mean? And we're so different, but I'm still just like,
you
know, that's my girl.
Oh
you know
my
what
God.
I mean?
No, I'm with you all
and I
the
think
way.
that's important for me.
I know. I agree. I mean, this relationship I think it's grown me up a lot and taught me so many things. But it's like been a fire in a good and bad way. I feel like for the past 2 years, and it's like even this morning, like it's just every day. That's just I agree with you on that. I feel like we're both in it, but it's also very intense. But it's also very beautiful and intimate and sweet too. But it's definitely very. I don't think I've ever been as locked in on a relationship in the past just because I didn't have that feeling of like truly falling in love with someone. I've loved many people. Like I'm a Cancer, like I'm from the South. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the girl from high school still calls me every month because we were like supposed to be a thing. But I was like, I'm gonna go to LA and like she's still just like, guys suck, and like you were so sweet and genuine. And I was like, I don't know. And like that was like a child love. And then it's like you get to LA and you meet like model girls, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but like their own vibe. But I think I also never dated an artist, you know, someone that's like truly their own person. And that's also something that'll keep the fire going as well, because you're just constantly inspired and constantly moved by what they're learning, and then it makes you want to learn and grow and make you want to read some books and, you know, hold a conversation like a real person. It's just like, it's cool.
It's so I feel like love is sort of like real love is sort of like music. It like transcends in the same way that like music does. I think we talked about this, but it was sort of like where there's a connection that happens, and it's so subtle, and there's so many, it's so complicated, and it's so subjective to the people. You know, it's like chemistry a little bit. That's why they say it's chemistry, but it's more like alchemy, really.
Why would you say that?
So have you ever read The Alchemist before?
Not enough of it.
So
I haven't finished
Alchemy
it.
was like an old medieval like way of creating. They were trying to create gold out of regular materials.
Understand.
So that was the original. That's what the Alchemist book is about. Is trying to. It's like a magic sort of thing.
Okay.
But so it's like a mythological kind of science, or if you will, pseudoscience or whatever. But the idea is that it's like scientific, but it's not. There's something about it. There's an element about it that's transcendent of all things that we know.
Understand.
You know, and that's the same thing that I try to approach music with, which is probably why they're so closely related. I think.
I agree with that.
You know,
I mean, I also want to talk about this too. Like, we've been making, I think, some great stuff.
Definitely.
Hopefully we'll make some more great stuff today. I think most people who are listening and who know this, like this podcast world here with Idobi, I feel like know who you are. But I think you're one of the best producers. I think you're one of the most talented people that I've met. I talked to the lady before we started working. I was talking to the lady. I was like, fucking Colin's like one of the best, and I need him to take me to the next level and do all this and like push me, and like musically, I was like musically, da-da-da. But then the relationship that I feel like we've gone to now is like, you've just helped me become even more spiritual, and I feel like even more believing in myself, and just like that thing of like transcending, you know, not just getting to the studio and trying to work on a song. Like, we're gonna make great shit, whatever, regardless. But I think you've just given me a lot of confidence and a lot of strength, you know what I mean? And I appreciate that about you. And I feel like when I first met you, I don't know if I knew that you had that, like, I guess truthfully, like I didn't know that you were vibing like that.
Yeah.
And it's just been really nice, bro. Like I feel like you've just helped me a ton.
I think that's what production though, like really I appreciate that, but
seriously.
I also feel like that's really my goal with production. I've been doing production since I was probably 12 years old. Like,
Crazy.
you know. So like that's been some
That's
it's been just like a weird calling that hasn't really like left,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, this is a cool thing, or like I'm a musician and I just want to get my ideas down. It was like the watching, because I interned for a lot of producers when I was younger that were great in various ways, and actually none of them really I feel like we're really on the same wavelength that I'm at now, where as far as like like the psychological part of it,
bro.
But they all had a little bit
you.
of that. They all had a little bit of that, but I was always fascinated with the human connection in it. Not just in like recording music or something, but also just how music makes you feel.
Yes.
And then how that comes about. So whether it's writing something by yourself or, you know, taking a pitch song that someone else wrote.
Yes.
But it's the truest. It seems like it's like the truest source to whatever whoever is writing the song, however they're tapped in with this other side, this other source that gives us all this love and creative ideas. It's you have to sort of believe that there's something that you can't really see or quantify.
Most definitely.
Which is, we were talking about like AI the other day, right? So like AI, everybody is tripping about AI, you know, and understandably, it's gonna take our jobs, you know.
Yeah, I know.
And I said, well, how can it take jobs that if you can't code in, you don't understand what love is. You don't understand what music is. You don't really understand all the frequencies there.
Come on. Yes,
so how do you like, you know, make that into a thing that humans are irreplaceable as far as I can see.
I mean,
and that's not what this conversation is about.
No,
AI.
No, you're good.
But I think that tapping into the love of somebody, and you've got such a spirit that's such a bright spirit. I've always told you that ever since we met. Your spirit is so bright, and so like you walk into a room and everybody's like, "Who's that guy?" You came to my barbecue we had in Studio City like a couple months ago, and I remember there was a lot of people come up to me and go, "Hey, dude, who's that guy over there?" And I'd be like, "Oh, that's Dwayne." And it's like, I feel like I need to go talk to him. I'm like, well, sounds like you had a reason for that. You should just go do that. Yeah, 100%. Go talk to him and see what he's got to say.
100%.
And that's
very sweet.
And that's an interesting thing, though, because you can, as a producer, you can sort of take that and then mold that with other elements of other people. It's really just a connection game.
100%.
You know?
100%. I mean, I agree with you all the way. It's just been beautiful to be able to tap into that, because I do it in my personal life, and I wake up every morning, run 3 miles, meditate for 10 minutes, do those things to like cultivate joy and, you know, stuff that I'll be creative with and make me feel good. And I think it's very pure. And I've tried to do it in the studio too, but I just feel like the last month, taking that and just arriving, you know what I mean, and just like showing up and still being insecure sometimes and like not sure if I can sing this or write this, you know what I mean? I think that's just going to continue to happen as I, you know, just develop and all this type of stuff. But it's like bringing that spirit more into the studio is something I never really thought about. And I don't want to say it's the same, but it's me, you know what I mean? So I feel like you've just brought that more to the front. I just think it's cool.
How do you
really do?
How do you think that that's different then from your personal life to your studio life? Like how is it different? Like what is the thing in between that when you get into a studio situation that makes you not feel that way?
I'll preface that with the past month, I feel like it's been more the same. But before, I will say, I think I just would be so, you know, like doing math with it, you know, because I wrote this screenplay and wrote this story and it had to be this. And if I had already talked about this last week in the studio, I should just talk about what I wrote about next in the story. You know what I mean? So it was more like trying to like solve this puzzle that I had already put in my head. And then coming to the studio, I would still love to sing and it would be pure and it would be real, but I wasn't allowing that space for, you know, God to come into the room. I would say because I had already manifested what it was going to be. I think that was all. Not that I was like approaching it wrong, but in a way, it was already just done in my head. So I was like, yeah, I just got to sing what I wrote a month ago about the thing. You know what I mean? And like now it's just like, well, yeah. It's like you the other day picking up the guitar and singing the thing, and then it's like, oh, cool. And then we just flow on that vibe. that's way
Yeah.
better, you know, or
Well,
it's better for me at the time.
there's
right
also
now.
there's also like, to me, there's really no way of doing it. Like
Yeah,
I used to think that, like, doing, you know, if an artist showed up and being
Mhm.
like, okay, well, here's this song that I actually wrote already. What do you think about it? And then just going into that
Mhm.
world. I used to sort of be like, that's, you know, this isn't like K-pop or something. You know,
Yeah, I
like,
feel
this is,
you.
what is this industry idea? But then the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I try to only surround myself with people who are, I think, are more talented than me and
Yes.
more
Yes.
tapped in on
Mhm.
in whatever their craft is. And so sometimes when there's a special moment
Mhm.
that happens, it doesn't always have to happen on a, like, we don't really as artists like think about time as an ingredient.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes.
And
Come
so
on.
like,
Yeah.
time is like such an ingredient. I've said this before, but it's such an important ingredient.
It's so important.
and that's not an excuse, by the way, for you artists who are listening, to like sit there and not finish stuff. By the
Yeah.
way, that's not what I'm talking about,
It'll
because
come
that's
to me.
because that can be like a crutch. It's such an amateur crutch of being like, well, it's not done yet. It's not perfect. It's like, there is no perfect. First of all, there's never a perfect. It can always be better, but
Yeah.
time in disciplined environments can, you know, sometimes that's, you need, I told you about the chef's table.
Yeah, most definitely.
Right. So like the chef's table episode, where it was like a Korean Buddhist monk,
Mhm.
and they went to the monastery, and they were like, how do you make such amazing food with like 4 ingredients? And she
Yeah.
said, oh, well, time is like my main ingredient.
Crazy.
And they were like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and when
yeah.
I saw that, I just was like, wow, I have been thinking, this woman is so tapped
she's
into the
tapped.
meta
Tapped.
of like what really is possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then what happens if we add that? And so we had a song last week we're going to work on today, and we had a long meeting with your management. And,
Yes, Lord.
And we had a great time.
We had a great time though.
And then at the end of it, we were like, well, should we tap into the song? And I said, let me send you this,
Yes.
and let you live with it for a week.
Whew.
You know?
Your boy been at home practicing.
But not just for
Yeah.
practicing purposes, but actually to maybe absorb what the material is, or if it's like, you know, like I said, people don't use time
Mhm.
as an ingredient properly.
No,
I think.
no.
You know?
And when you
including myself, by the way.
yeah,
It's an art form, you know. It's something that it's a discipline. It's something you have to work with every day.
Mhm.
And a lot of the things I talk about on podcasts like this one are just like, sometimes people would go, bro, just give me the secret. What the fuck
Yeah.
is the secret?
Right,
you know,
right.
what's the secret? I'm like, bro, I don't actually know the secret.
Don't know
There's
any.
a lot more. There's way more producers out there who have way more hits than me. Ask them. Maybe they know. But I
Yeah.
bet you most of them will probably, who are actually really tapped in and
Mhm.
consistent, will probably tell you maybe something similar, which is not the answer you want to hear.
It's not the answer you want to hear, but I feel like when you're open to like the way you talk, I feel like it's the answer. You know what I'm saying? You just gotta like go within yourself. You know what I'm saying? And the
Right.
thing as far as like time goes, that shit is so I feel like we all talk about it with our friends, our artist friends, whoever. Just like, oh, like when did that happen? And then it's like, oh, like they're dope or they're not dope, but timing. It came
Timing?
out and the shit
Yeah.
smacked, and people are just like, oh, and it can still be here or it can go. I think the timing thing is just when you brought that up, I was just like,
Well,
wow,
also think about it like
is
this.
great.
Think about it like this, because of the part of the beauty of social media now is that you know, kids and everybody's just like on. You're able to pull through time,
Mhm.
old songs that are
Yes.
great songs, and maybe even old sounds
Mhm.
that are phenomenal. Like the classic example is the guy with the skateboard and the
Oh yeah, I remember that.
and the cranberry juice or whatever. The Fleetwood Mac's
yeah,
Dreams.
Fleetwood Mac. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's just like, I mean, that song was #1 on Billboard again.
Crazy.
Right.
Crazy.
So
Feel
that's
good.
a wild example,
Mhm.
an extreme example, but on the micro, there's a lot more examples of that
Yes.
are happening.
Understand.
I think.
I mean, I agree. I also I think something that's still inspiring the new stuff that we're doing is like Prince said this thing of like you're either here to enlighten or to discourage, and I feel like the songs that you dug from like maybe a few months ago was like, oh, it just made me feel good, and I feel like the stuff we're doing now just makes me feel fucking good. And that's all I want to do. I'm like, of course, like we'll let stuff come in the room and we'll be free, but I'm like, if we can leave the studio and put it out, we love it and it makes people feel good. I'm like, the fucking job is done. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't want to do something. I'm just not at the point in my life now where I'm just like, it's like that song, like that Fleetwood Mac. He was skating around drinking juice and people are just like, fuck yes. Like, I'm like, that's what I want to give people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to make people feel sexy, feel empowered, feel loved. And yeah, that's like really it. Like, you know what I mean?
There's this interesting story I was reading to my daughter last night, and it was like this. It was like a kid's book, and it was like there's like the whole thing is there's a fish, and the fish is the whole idea of the book is the fish is swimming around
Yeah.
looking for water because he was told that water was what he needed to be alive.
Crazy.
Somebody told him that, and
Crazy.
so this fish is swimming around in the ocean looking for water.
Oh. So
right, and then
so
he goes,
sweet.
and then he finally gets to the surface, and he jumps up really high
Yeah.
in the air, and he's like, I can't breathe.
Mhm.
Fuck, I can't breathe. And then he lands, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh wait,
Whoa.
you know. And it's a kid's book, and it's so
No,
it
that's
was,
heavy though.
right? And
That's
it was
heavy,
sort of like, well, I mean, I feel like that's a cheeky example of maybe just like where the music actually is.
Mhm.
It's like everywhere. It's
everywhere.
the discipline. We talk about discipline, and that's the hardest part because if you don't have like discipline in your life, I think I talk about an artist like my artist Swayco, for example.
Love Swayco, by the way.
Swayco is
He's
like one of
great.
my dear friends, and this guy is so incredibly disciplined at watching him, just like you know, you're working out every day, and it doesn't have to be working out, by the way. It could be anything. For me, the cold plunge is because it's so uncomfortable.
Right, of course.
It's like the first thing I do. It's like I do not, never, ever in any day do I feel like doing that. I never want to do that. You know?
That's very
and I
fair.
get in and I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I hate this. And then you get out and you're like, wow, I'm so glad that I did that.
100%.
I can do anything today.
Easy.
And I watched Swayco do it, and he and I do that actually, the cold plunge a lot, by the way, before sessions. But this guy is so focused, and he works so hard. And he talks about this story, so I don't mind talking about it. But he was drinking a lot, and he came to me one day, and he was just like, "Do you think I drink too much?" And I was just like, "Well, I don't know. Do you feel like you drink too much?" And he's like, "I think so."
Yeah.
And that day, he's like, "I'm not drinking anymore.
Crazy.
You stop drinking."
Crazy.
And I was just
that.
like, if more artists had that tenacity of being like, I need to have discipline in my life in order to find this sort of like, you know, because there's so, especially here in LA, there's so much distraction and
God,
you know, parties and you know, this, that, and the other, social media, and everybody thinks that they're like, it's here, and it's so not here.
No. Oh God.
It's here, and what we're talking
100%.
about.
It's so true. I get mad at any of my friends that like, just like once you wake up or like watching TV or something like that, and you just like go. I will see my friends get on their phone and get mad by being on Instagram. It's like, oh, I shouldn't have seen like that. I'm like, well, why are you doing it? Like, it's so, put it down. Just put it down. Don't you know what it's going to not? I don't mean like sometimes I think social media can be very positive, but like it's like that. Like I feel, you know, it's not that it's hurting you, but I just see some of my homies, it hurts them.
It's
you know
not good or bad. It's just like anything.
Yeah, it's true.
It's just like anything, right? Like we were talking about this too. It's not like anything. It's not good or bad. It's either. It just is.
I know.
So
it makes me sad.
It's either for your algorithm. I mean, if you look at my algorithm, you know,
yours is probably different.
It's probably different than yours. It's probably different than just like anybody else's. You know, so I probably have some dumb videos on there, just like everybody else who likes to watch dumb videos.
Love that.
But it's not like just a bunch of garbage.
Yeah,
you know, if I feel like I've got somebody, and I really try to be careful about like how much time I spend on that. And by the way, when I'm sitting there, like, you know, making edits or something, and my engineers, you know, I'm sitting there waiting on him to do stuff, I try to like not be on the phone because it's so easy to do that.
Easy.
But the stuff that I do see typically is like how, you know, things that are I find valuable to me.
Yeah, no,
you know?
Understand.
And I've actually learned a lot from it.
Yeah,
you know.
Got you. Yeah.
So, I think that if people put more conscious into that
vibe,
it'd be better.
That's fair.
But it is an addiction. It's something just like. It's like, you know, drugs or alcohol or anything else. You have to watch how much you're using it.
You got to watch it. I will say to be a positive note, I'm obsessed at the moment with like, there's like these old videos of like San Francisco black people with just big afros, just walking around and like being intimate with like men and women and like couples and families. And I'm just like, that's so fly. It's a lot of that popping up, and I'm just like, mad people with afros.
But it's cool. It's cool though. Like I said, it's
cute.
You can sort of like use that as feeding your artistic soul.
I think that's.
But it also is like TV. You know, like when you were kids, like did your parents be like, okay, you can't watch TV, like you got a certain amount of hours of TV
course.
you can watch.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't just let kids you wouldn't, as like if you're a little kid, you wouldn't just let your kid watch TV all day, not go to school and stuff, you know.
Yeah, we have to shut it off.
It's the same thing for adults though. I think he's just like, maybe you just be conscious. Just be conscious of, be like, all right, I've been on this thing for like 3 hours.
Mad
today.
time.
It's probably, you know, maybe am I missing like relationships? Am I missing like, you know? The other 100%. Thing I think is like it seems like there's a lot of young artists that I work with have an interesting amount of care of what other people think about them.
It's very true.
And as an artist, that
very
is
true.
So poisonous.
I agree with you all the way.
As an artist specific. I mean, 100%. It's really not good for anybody, but specifically if you're trying to like make something new that's true to yourself and you're worried about like, you know, not just like what your fans will think, but like maybe what, I don't know, your label thinks or what your friends think.
I feel like what people are not thinking about you too, I think hurts artists. Or I've just seen it, you know, it's like, oh, maybe they don't think I'm that cool, or like, you know what I mean? Like, then that can send you into a fucking spiral too. It's like, they're not even thinking about me.
But you're never going to make music, like great music, thinking about other people, maybe.
No, I agree with you all the way. I agree with you all the fucking way. All I know is, man, lately at least, maybe it'll change in a month or two or whenever we put stuff out, but when I'm in that car and I'm at the house and I'm listening to shit, I'm just like, I love this. Like, you've got the text from me. I'm just like, this is great. Yeah. Like, even with the flower joint, like, I feel like I've just been home taking it in. I'm like, this song is genius. Like, you know, and I took time to hear that. I mean, the second time you played for me, I was like, oh, okay, yes. I was like, yeah. But like being at home, I'm like, oh.
And the time you spent, and that's part of why I wanted to send you home with it, because I wanted to be like, okay, is the time that you spent there this week, is it just a holy crap, this sounds really good, and you get excited, and then a week later it's like not as exciting. Very true. It was like, well, maybe in a week if it's still as exciting, you know
what?
And you know, also, I mean, James Fauntleroy, hats off to him.
Oh my
God, one of the greatest to ever do it. Yeah. But if you watch a guy like him, or a John Bellion or
also
all day Greg all day Heim.
I need to know who that. I probably know who that is.
Definitely know. Okay. He's amazing. But these caliber writers, I think, if you watch them, they are actually more transcendent and more spiritual.
Yeah.
Than like, you know what I mean? Than other people. And I think it's like they've almost hit that nirvana a little bit. They're a little closer to it, and they don't think, none of those guys ever think about, when I've ever seen any of those guys work, it's like they've never come in thinking about other people's opinions of them or whatever. It's just like they talk to you as an artist, they feel what you're feeling, and then they try to sort of like unplug, and then they plug into the source.
Right, 100%.
And it just sort of flows. You know, and if you can be a little bit more closer to that, I think that just the better music. And that's why those guys are so consistent.
It's true. And I've been loving them. James, I feel like, since, of course, I heard about Frank when I was a kid, and then John Bailey, and I don't know when he came on the scene for me, but when I heard that shit, I fell in love. I was like, this is the type of pop music that, at the time, I was like, that I would make, because it was like perfect hooks and great melodies, but it also it had like a little hip-hop feel too.
Yeah.
And even, I don't know, he's just mad swaggy. He's just a swaggy guy.
There's a lot of, you know, I feel so incredibly lucky to have so many talented friends. Like our friend Zach Cervini.
Crazy.
He's kind of on the other side, is like in the producing and mixing side of it. Hardworking guy. Like, all these guys are hardworking, and these people are all the discipline is the one thing that's like nobody really wants to talk about.
Yeah, man.
And it's the one thing I've sort of noticed, and I'm just like, I see people, people hit me. Right, people hit me all the time. They're just like, well, yo, bro, like, how do I get started? And I'm like, phew.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It's a long question.
It's a long, like,
I don't even know how to really respond to it. It's like, probably, like,
it's like, it's crazy.
Well, like, kind of almost like if you have to ask me that question, then you know, like, you shouldn't ask me that question.
No, you shouldn't.
You should be doing it.
You're so right talking about discipline, though, man. I don't want to, like, you're fucking right. I mean, I feel like I try to tap into it, but just, I don't know, every time we've talked and you say certain shit, I'm like, fuck, like, you just have to, like, remember it and just stay focused on that shit. I mean, like, I'm constantly writing in the studio, and, like, But there's a whole other part that you can be disciplined on too, and like
For sure, and
like,
and also like I
crazy.
think it's as an artist too. It's almost like two sides of the coin. It's the yin and yang proverbially, but you have like your discipline side, which would let's just call that like the masculine energy, right? Like the very like I have to do this. It's very like I have to make myself do something that's uncomfortable.
Understand.
In order to know that like we get better, right?
Yeah.
On a regular basis too, not just like one day or week or something. It's like on a regular basis. And then the other side, which would be like the yang part of it would be sort of, or the yang, I actually don't remember which one is the feminine, which one's the masculine. And
I wish I knew that.
But whatever the opposite side of it is, you'd be more like completely in touch with your feelings and like nature and
that's me.
And not being pressured.
Yes.
So there's a balance of those two things that are completely required. If you're entirely over here, entirely in touch with your feelings and don't have any discipline, you'll just float and never get anything done.
Understand.
And if you're entirely disciplined without any, of the other, well then you just like you can't make art that way.
Yeah, you lose. Yeah, you're gonna lose the other side.
You can't make art that way. I think it's like a combination of the two. That's it's the balance in the middle sort of thing.
Understand.
And of course, in music, I think it's actually like maybe the obsession.
Yeah, understand.
Like you're obsessed. I know.
I'm pretty fucking obsessed.
Of course you are. That's why you're so good.
Like wake up early this morning having to leave the lady. She's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "Gotta go to the studio." I'm so happy. I'm like texting you, knowing that all of the stuff is going to happen in the way that it needs to. And I'm still just like, just want to make sure. I don't know. Also, I get so weird.
But also, bro, look at who's like your hero. Like who are some of your artistic heroes? Like your
I mean, of course the Cars. I mean, Prince. Jimmy.
Zero balance. Prince had zero balance.
Yeah, it's very
with his obsession.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So
you're right.
It's interesting.
Talk about his studio sessions and shit going 48 hours, 24 hours.
Zero balance. And I mean, I'm not saying everybody needs to do that, but I'm just saying like whatever it is, whatever the extreme obsession, where as far as your obsession will push you.
Yes.
But then you also have to have like that discipline. Look, there's a lot of days where I'm just like, man, I really don't want to go to the studio. Not that many, because I'm still obsessed with what I do. That hasn't changed at all. But there are days where I'm like, I don't really want to go like mix this song and the discipline part of it. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to get started, but the thing that's beautiful is if you're really doing the right thing, when you making yourself's the hard part.
Understand.
And then when you get into it, you're kind of like, oh, I'm here now.
100%.
I love this.
100%, bro. You're so fucking right. It kind of goes into my last question I want to ask you was like, you kind of just answered it, but I feel like you could elaborate on it a bit. Like, what keeps you fucking coming back to make another song, to mix another song, to write another song? Like,
it's a good question.
Yeah.
I think maybe I don't like. I guess that it's just what I love to do so much, and I feel like that it's how I add the most value to the world.
Come on, yeah.
Like I think that's like my gift, because I don't think everybody is lucky enough to be born with a gift that's so clear, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I think that gratitude for that gift and for my ability to like, first of all, love what I do enough to do it a lot, and be able to help people, like help artists, and then the thing is, if I can help an artist is really what's going to help a lot of people.
Understand?
People aren't looking at me on stage; they're not looking.
I feel you.
They're not looking. They're not looking for my guidance.
Yeah.
They're looking for your guidance, and for the other artists that I work with. That's who they're connecting with. Yeah. And so, but who do you turn to help make your songs and to like help? When you're in a rough place, it's the creatives that are behind that. And so I felt like my job wasn't 100%. My job wasn't ever like supposed to be. What you do.
Understand.
It was just, I was in a band forever. I was never really trying to be a front. I was never a frontman. I was play drums and stuff. So I was never really like the front person anyways. And that just wasn't ever really something I really wanted to do or like felt like I wanted to do, be in front.
Yeah.
And so it was always to be the position I'm in right now.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, if that's what I want to do, then let me be the best I can be at it.
Understand.
And I don't really know what else I would do. Like, I don't think I would be good at I don't know, like what would I do exactly?
Yeah,
real estate or like
I'm not. Nah. I mean, you
know what I'm
could,
saying?
but like,
yeah. Like
but
you could do
other
one
things.
could do a lot of things.
Right.
But I just every time I think about it, because you think about it, you're like, well, what would I do if I wasn't doing this? And it's sort of like
It's tough. It's tough to think about it.
I don't think I genuinely can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing.
Yeah, same.
And that's probably the answer. I don't know.
I mean, I think that's beautiful, and I'm so happy that you do what you do.
Gratitude for what you do and what you love.
That was a bar. I mean, honestly,
you have to, dude. Like, think about it. Like, it's so hard. I mean, it's so. There's so many. I feel like there's so many pitfalls.
Yeah.
That it's just the only people who can really do it. I think are people who are driven at a level that where you're like, I have something to say that people need to hear before I die.
I feel that. I feel that all the way.
And also,
all the way.
also, like, not just that, but for me to feel good about myself. But but I am grateful that I have this affliction, because it's kind of like a little bit of a painful process.
Yeah,
so it's like,
for sure.
But I'm grateful that I feel like this and that I can help people this way. And so being grateful and positive about that every day, and then waking up every day and being like, all right, like,
like, let's get to it.
Let's get to it.
Yeah, 100%.
And that creates like extra momentum, like especially when you get going, because you talk about Willow, for example. Like, I've watched her career from all the way back, and now she's doing such cool music. So cool, and so different, and it's always pivoting. It's always a little left from where you expect.
She's constantly evolving. That's why I'm just like, it's so inspiring.
It's a real artist, though.
She's the realest artist I've ever seen. I'm not just gassing. I mean, she hates me for that too. I'm always gassing her, but
it's a real artist. So she's a real artist,
man.
and she works with real artists, and there's plenty of examples of that where like. And that inspires me to keep going, because there's a lot of, the higher you get, there's more pitfalls, there's more things that could mess you up.
More things that can mess you up too. But I agree with what you were saying to it, as far as like surrounding yourself around people that are better. I mean, she was definitely one of the, like, well, I don't want to say one of the first examples, because I've been around great people for the past 5 years. I really have been, but I think she was the first example. Someone that looked like me, you know what I mean? Someone that was in a scene and making rock music, making pop music that I thought was actually really fucking good, and been blessed to be surrounded by her magic and have her as a great friend. And I was like, whoa, like, yeah, she's so much, but it made me want to be better, it made me want to live life more. And now surrounding myself by people like you, and then Dom and fucking Forrest, like, you surround your... So much gratitude.
Dumb bassman. Bassman. Shout out to Bassman.
He's
crazy.
Insane.
He's really changed my life in perspectives. Insane. He's changed. He's the one who introduced me to James Fauntleroy and to Brian Kennedy, which another guy. I don't know if you know Brian, but
I know that name.
Brian Kennedy. Shout out to Brian. Like, what those guys, working with those guys has been like transcendent for me, because they're so humble and they're so great at what they do. And Brian Kennedy, if you don't know who he is, look him up. He's doing some really cool stuff. He's got a really great nonprofit. He's just watching these guys sort of channel music, and first of all, the level of musicianship that they're at, you're just like, God. Dude, wow. Like, and it's just so cool to watch them. The way they work is it's not all about let's make the track. It's all about like let's call in this energy, right? It's chemistry. It's like, we should bring in this person. That's why, like, sometimes when we're working with Dom, somebody will just show up. And anytime somebody just shows up, walks in the studio that I wasn't expecting, and Dom's there, I'm like, this person is going to be dope.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
100%.
Easy. Yeah.
100% of the time, they contribute something really cool to whatever we're doing. And you're just like, and some people, I think, are just like, this is my, like, they first of all, they think about the money first, which is a poison in
big
itself.
no.
You know what I mean? So
no, you're right.
You never want to think about that.
It's tough. It's tough. It's God. I feel like the moment I stopped, things just got so much better. Thinking about shit like that.
Always,
but
does,
yeah.
The money and
not to get
and
on
success.
that, but it's
but it does.
It's real.
It does. It really. It's a piece of it. It's like you can't just ignore that in a conversation like this. Like, that is when people, that's a glaring thing, because people are like, well, I don't have money, so I don't feel like I have enough right now, so I'm making art, right? Or I'm making like I'm crafting these I'm crafting emotions into music and something tangible. And if they think about like money or something prior to actually doing the work, it affects the work.
It affects it. It fucking affects it.
That's why you don't do that. You always think about it after the fact. And so like I think like that's kind of I'd say an amateur way of looking at productions or writing or any of that stuff. It's like, how much money can I make today?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And there's a lot of people who think that way. And if you're one of them, if you're listening, I just encourage you to not think that way, or try not thinking that way.
Try for a few sessions.
Try for a few sessions, not thinking about it
all the way, bro. Like, that'd be a tough place to be in.
Place
to be in. I don't know what I would say. Like, I feel like I would try to I don't know what I would come up with to make.
Well, it's just like, well, okay, like for example, like I don't want to have anybody else come in today because I don't want to have to split an extra percentage of songwriting.
Think like that, for sure.
That's what I'm talking about.
For sure, 100%.
You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah, that's not the way either. Yeah. No, I think the most. I mean, you taught me that. I've never been in a situation to where so many people. I'm like, let them all touch it because they're so fucking tapped.
Right.
Like, I mean, please. Oh.
Yeah. It all comes out in the end.
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
It's great, bro.
So that's cool.
Well, I love you.
I love you.
I'm so thankful.
And I'm grateful we got to do this. This is cool here in the Idobi studio. The Go Fuck Thyself is like right up there. It's so funny.
Well, bro, I love you so much. Thank
you.
You the man, bro.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for listening. Dwayne's World. We'll see you guys very soon.